Oh boy, this is it. It's Wednesday, Ben's Day. We're all here to see Ben play some crazy game. Well, that's not going to happen today, because it is time for Ben to tutorialize a game so people can possibly get into it and appreciate it as much as he does. Because today, I am going to introduce you to a game that I absolutely adore. That game is Dark Souls 3. Now, Dark Souls has a bit of a, shall we say, reputation behind it? Yeah, that's probably a good way to put it. People think it's really hard. And that's not entirely false, but I would like to present some information on creating characters and getting into Dark Souls 3 that'll be a bit of an introductory guide when it comes to different classes. Because the first thing that you need to know about Dark Souls is everybody says that you are unable to choose your difficulty. They are wrong. It's different though, because basically the class is set up and how they play, in a sense, is how you choose your difficulty, as well as if you decide to play with other people, that is also a way of sort of choosing your difficulty in one sense. I'll cover the multiplayer options later, but for now, I'm going to pop us in as 3 different classes to cover how to get into Dark Souls 3 and beat the first boss. Let's do it. So, starting out, we are here at the character creator. First thing you need to do is you need to name your character. Now this is actually a fairly important point because the idea of Dark Souls is it is rather difficult and that's a part of the story. The world hates you, everything dies, everything is bad. So, when naming your character, it is actually important, and I highly recommend that you name them something that you don't like. So in other RPGs, you name your character so that then you kind of have an identity with them and you follow them along, and it makes the adventures more personal and it makes you feel like you're playing the role. The role in Dark Souls is you are the poor son of a gun who has to clean up the mess of all of the gods and heroes that have gone insane, died, or buggered off before you. So you're gonna die a lot. Like, a lot. And if you name your character something where you actually learn to care about your character, it's going to be kind of hard on you as your character is murdered over and over and over and over and over again. So, name them something dumb. So here is our mighty challenger to take on the gods, Sir Nubcrunch. Wonderful. For the sake of speed, I'm going to run you through the classes real quick here. Very briefly. We have Knight, which is going to be heavy armor, shield, sword, hard to kill, mercenary, better stats but less good weapons, definitely a quality build. Warrior is more strength based. Herald is going to be pokey spear and miracles. Thief is going to have a knife and move quick. Assassin is going to be a fancy thief. Sorcerer shoots magic. Pyromancer also shoots magic, but only fire magic and likes to hit stuff. Cleric, they like hitting stuff and doing miracles, but mostly the hitting, but also miracles. Deprived, when you hate yourself or you really want to show off. Yeah. So the 3 classes that we're going with on this one is we are going to play as a thief for our dex build. We are going to play as a knight for our strength/quality build, and we are going to play as a mage for our magic build. Outside of class, the next bit of information that you're going to want to know is when it comes to creating your character, some people make really crazy looking, weird, nasty things. I don't go that far. The rule still applies that the world hates you and your character is going to die over and over again, so I would not recommend spending hours and hours and hours making the character look exactly like you, because then you might take it a little personally when the game personally wrecks you over and over and over and over again. So I generally go with the really pale guys, because that's who I am on the inside. I'm a very pale shut-in who just wants to be left alone. You'll also note that when it comes to choosing gender, the classic Dark Souls wisdom comes out, and choosing gender has no bearing on skill. So you can be whoever you want, just don't relate to them. You'll notice that I have 3 characters in total. 2 of them are men, 1 of them is a woman, and they're all good. I love them all equally. My children that will go and die for me. Now let's get some basic Dark Souls mechanics out of the way. So, up in the top left there, you'll notice you have 3 bars. You have health, magic, and stamina. Stamina is the main thing, well, obviously health and magic are the main things you want to keep track of. Run out of health, you die. Run out of stamina, you can't hit anyone or block or dodge, which means you die. Down on the bottom left, you'll notice that you have different items equipped. The box on the right is your main hand weapon. The box on your left is normally a shield, or it's your offhand weapon. On the bottom, those are the items that you can sort through by hitting down on the D-pad and then hitting square or X, depending on if you're playing PlayStation or Xbox respectively, to use them. Up on the top, those are spells. On the bottom right corner, you will see a number telling you how many souls you have. Soul points is more accurate. Basically, souls is the only currency in the game. You level up with it, you use it to buy items, it's everything. And you drop them when you die. You can go pick them up once. If you die twice, you lose the ones from the first time. Just don't worry about it, okay? You gotta go into this game like you're on a nice tropical island and there's hula girls or hula men. Hula boys. You just hand you some drinks, you're sitting there on the beach, and then every now and then you get stabbed in the guts and you get murdered. But then you wake up and you're like, oh, it was a dream. And you go back out and you find the guy who stabbed you in your dream and you stab them. I lost that. Sorry. Just play the game already! We awaken into a world that cares not for your dreams or ambitions. You are in the middle of the longest sequence of nightmares mankind has ever experienced. And no matter what, no matter how many barriers you put up between you and the world, it will tear them down. Time will tear them down. You will be forgotten and destroyed. Which is why we like to take a break from it and play Dark Souls. So welcome to the world. You'll probably be a little confused, but don't worry. Popping into our equipment load here, you'll notice with our 3 characters, we obviously have different equipment to start out. With the Thief, what I'm going to do right off the bat is I'm going to get rid of that shield because I do not care for blocking. I care for damage output and I care for the quickest dodge possible, so I'm also ditching my shirt because if you keep your equipment load low enough, I believe under 30%, then you are able to get a fast roll. But yeah, so with the Thief, basically I am focusing on damage output and mobility. What you'll notice here is that the dagger that you start out with comes with a secondary dodge function. This is very important if you're going to be playing a Thief character, because basically it allows you to slide a little more controlled-like, and also it has a very slightly longer invincibility frame time on it. Invincibility frame basically means when you dodge, you have a certain amount of frames in-game, so it's like less than a second. You have a certain amount of frames in-game where you cannot take damage. It's best to time your dodges with the enemy attacks so then you can dodge through their attacks with your invincibility frames versus trying to just get out of the way. Getting out of the way is great and all, but especially if you're playing a character like this where your only defense against enemy attacks is to either stagger them or to dodge, you're going to want to be sure that you're dodging through the attacks and not just staying away because you need to be putting out damage. Moving on to Knight here, you'll immediately notice that I have a lot more armor. I also have a wonderful little shield that I can parry with. Yay! Parry! Now, generally, with the Knights, you're going to be working with a block and then strike. You want to try and bait their attack out and either avoid it or just straight up block it and then hit them when they're exposed. The armor is going to help you take a number more hits than if you were playing, I don't know, an idiotic thief who isn't wearing a shirt. But it isn't actually going to protect you that much, and also every hit you take to that shield is also going to be reducing your stamina. Now you also notice I can just move around with the shield up. This is very important because, as I said, each time you get hit while blocking, you are losing stamina, and certain shields will only block a certain amount of damage. So just keep it up and try and move around enough to dodge anything you can, because it's much better to have it just barely miss you and have your shield up just in case than it is to take the hits and lose stamina, because you need that stamina to be outputting damage. It all comes down to not taking damage and outputting damage in your own way. For the thief, it's all dodging. For the knight, you block what you can't dodge, and you make sure that you're outputting as much damage as possible by staying nice and close. Now, the mage is a little different, and honestly, a lot of people consider mage to be the easy mode of the game. You'll notice that they start with a dagger and a little shield. The shield is great for blocking, but I don't care, because I don't block unless I have to. What I do have is I immediately put the casting staff, I was about to say rod. You put the staff in your left hand, and it allows you to use L1 or left bumper if you're playing on an Xbox. And if you're playing on mouse and keyboard, just don't play on mouse and keyboard. That is the worst decision you can possibly make while playing Dark Souls. Anyway, with the staff in your left hand, it allows you to freely attack with your right hand. So if you're able to run around kind of like you're a thief character and just get behind weak enemies, you can just go for the backstabs. But if they're farther ahead of you, you can just magic them to death. But you see, I kind of lean towards getting the backstabs off because this is an early area with weak enemies. There isn't really that big of a reason to be wasting soul arrows and great soul arrows on them. When it comes to the two spell types that you immediately start out with, soul arrow is faster but it doesn't deal as much damage, whereas great soul arrow is going to be a bigger burst that makes stuff go boom. But you only have a limited amount of uses of them, as you can tell by the magic bar up top there. So when it comes to the balance between outputting damage and not getting hits, the mage chooses to stay away. You stay away, you keep hitting it with missiles. You have the advantage of having better range than about 80% of the game. So you just stay away, you just pluck them one after another until they are dead. So if you have patience, this is probably the easiest class to play through the game as. If you don't have patience, it's going to be the hardest class to play through the game as. So fighting individual enemies when it comes to these characters is pretty easy, fairly similar. You know, with the thief, it's more get around back, backstab them if you can. If not, right up front, just hit them with enough attacks that they can't hit back, make them dead. With the knight, it's keep your shield up until you have an opening, then swing your sword. You're going to be dealing more damage with that sword up front than the dagger will, so you just keep hammering on them. And then with the mage, if you're feeling lucky, just go around and be working that dagger like it is the best thing you've ever had. It's going to help you out because it means that you have the spells saved up for later for bigger bosses and bigger enemies that are harder to take on up front. But generally when it comes to taking care of individual enemies, the strategies are pretty simple. So, let's get on to the first boss. Actually, no, I lied. I have one more bit of information for you, and that is one more tip, really. And that is to search your surroundings as much as possible. You'll notice specifically in the starting area here, if you go down this little side cliff on the right, you will actually find some fire bombs. They are phenomenally useful in this upcoming boss battle. Items may not be as useful as this later on in the game, but they might be more useful in different ways. They might be upgrade items for your weapons or armor. You can't upgrade your armor, I was thinking of Dark Souls 1. But just search everywhere. Each enemy that you kill is souls going towards leveling up. Make sure that you're killing enemies to gather up those souls. Very useful. So let's tackle this guy. First phase with the knight first, and then we'll go down the line, and then we'll go to second phase. So for starters, first piece of information you need to know, bow to the guy. It doesn't give you any bonuses, but it does make you feel a little better about killing him. Pull out the sword, and as soon as the sword is pulled out, he is able to take damage. So you go up in there, you switch to two-handed mode by hitting triangle or Y, and you just start hammering on him. Because you notice his health did go down. And you keep that shield up, because he's got crazy reach. Keep the shield up, dodge when he goes for a big swing if possible, and then get in there and hammer when you can, dodge when you can, But that shield is basically your fallback. If you're taking damage, you put that shield up, you back away, and as soon as he's open, you get back in there and you deal damage. And that is first phase done with the knight. And here's first phase with the mage. Again, pull sword out, get to stabbing. Just stab to stab to stab to stab to stab it. Whatever you can do. Remember to save your soul arrows. Now, I switched it to heavy soul arrows. They're generally good for bosses that you can predict a little better. He likes to jump if you're at a distance, so keep your eyes on that if you're a mage. But again, you can tell he's got a pretty distinctive reach on him. You know, you stay just about out here and you can be hitting him with hits and you'll be fine. Those jump attacks are intimidating at first, but they're easy to dodge, and you'll notice he's already at half health. Like, these magic missiles are just destructive. This is easy mode. Now you'll notice I have the dagger equipped two-handed. That means that I have free access to the extra dodge ability, and I just don't really like playing shields a lot in these games, so the thief kind of speaks to me where you just stab him. Get to slashing. Main thing to note is that the dagger actually has a bleed effect on it, so you deal enough damage to him and you'll notice that basically the effect hits and he just loses a bunch of health in one go. So it's a good build-up attack. Just keep it, and then there it goes, right there. Just a bunch of damage. Again, since you don't have the shield, it's similar, but because you're moving a lot quicker, keep in tight, he goes for big swing, get that big dodge. Just keep timing your dodges with his attacks. Bleed effect comes in, there he goes, second phase coming up. Now, the second phase of this boss, the first time I saw it, I just about peed myself, if I'm going to be honest. He is terrifying, and that is his main strength, is the fact that he is just absolutely terrifying. You want to get as far away as possible, and you want to be focusing on the big black thing, but that is not what you do. So basically, underneath that big old black monster, you still have the same enemy and then a big old arm that strikes you at a distance. So don't follow that arm, follow the spear. If you can see the spear, well, it's not technically a spear, it's like a halberd or something. The spear will telegraph all of the attacks, even the hand attacks. Now, I kind of cheesed it with the knight because the knight is not my strong suit, but it's also something you do in Dark Souls. You got items that are strong against certain enemies, you use them. So those fire bombs we found do some pretty good damage. Mage is even easier. Like, just stay out here, keep hitting them with the heavy soul arrows. This is the patient approach. You stay out here, he transforms, hit him with the big one. Oh, he does his big transformation. During that whole time, he's stood still and you just keep hitting him. He doesn't even get a shot off. Just keep hitting him and he dies. Mage, super easy in this boss battle, super easy in a lot of the boss battles except for specific ones. And then coming in from the right, we got the thief. I healed up a little bit and I just used a couple of fire bombs. I dodged in behind him and then decided no, I don't want to be there. So I just kept my distance, even though distance is a bad thing with this boss. Still, I had the fire bombs, so screw it. He just keeps it dodging in his weak spots. He goes for big attack, you dodge to the right, you go in, you give him a little cut on the butt, and he's dead. Those, basically with the thief, it's all just build up the bleed damage, get those big hits on him, and then the second phase is just going to be as easy as it can be. Just don't even worry about it. And there you go, you beat the tutorial boss of Dark Souls 3. He is possibly one of the easiest bosses in the game, possibly the easiest boss in the game. Well, I mean, he would definitely be the easiest boss in the game if the Deacons of the Deep didn't exist. Yeah. So let me know what you think of this format. I'm going to keep making them, and I'm going to try and guide these three characters all the way through Dark Souls 3 from beginning to end, giving you all the tips you could possibly need to beat all the bosses, maybe even the DLC and optional bosses if I really feel like it, but we'll see because, oh, they still give me nightmares. But I hope you realize that this game is just another game. It's awesome, the difficulty will spike every now and then and it can be really punishing. You can really enjoy this game though, especially if you realize that the difficulty is a part of the story, it's a part of the narrative experience. it perfectly creates this space where you have so much control over the gameplay and how much you actually play a role in the story and how much you understand. And it's just awesome because you're a part of this world. I mean, the world's terrible and it's ugly and it hates you. But at the end of the day, it works really, really well to give you the story that it's trying to give you by being this difficult. And Dark Souls would not be Dark Souls without that difficulty. But again, it's not actually that hard once you know what you're doing. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.